Hi, happy Tuesday. Nice to see you all here. We've got quite the interesting one today. We were just going to talk about closing arguments and a very, well, not good look as far as the deposition for DJT, as they kept referring to him in the deposition, but for Donald J. Trump. Um, we're going to talk about the Carroll versus Trump case. We've talked about it quite a few weeks in a row now as things progressed. We talked about statements in her testimony last week. They did closing arguments yesterday. State rest. To no one's surprise, the defense offered nothing. Not any evidence at all. No witnesses. And although he'll say otherwise, Donald J. Trump did not testify on his behalf. He didn't show up, not one day in court. Judge Kaplan had asked several times of the defense, Tacopino. Attorney Tacopino routinely said that he would confer with his client again, but said he would not be testifying. And yet, somehow or other, there's tweets out there of Donald J. Trump saying he was kept from the courtroom. He wasn't allowed to bring his case forward. It's a sham. It's a sham. Didn't you know? But anyway, as the judge had said, I really did think that while he was out there on social media talking about a current case, that the judge would have been a little stricter about it and actually maybe did something as far as sanctions or anything. Not sure what he could have done, but I thought he'd be a little louder about it. Well, today, once the verdict came in, and he was seeing what was going on before they even read the verdict. He said, you know what we're dealing with here. Really, he just kind of had sympathy for the defense. The defense had said that last week when it became quite annoying to the judge that the family and Trump were out there tweeting about the case on the regular, even though they were told not to. The lawyers were told not to. There's no controlling him. That much we all know, you know. Exactly, Colin. He was over there checking out that great golf course he's got in Scotland. And isn't there still a land dispute suit over there that he's got to deal with? Yeah, I did find an interesting link recently, that has all of the Trump lawsuits on it. It's too big for me to share with you guys. I can't even. The link is so long. I'll have to shorten it up, but I will be putting it in the description for you if you'd like to track some of these lawsuits to the man who does no wrong. Well, I can see why all these people are suing him. I mean, I don't understand. Like, if he does nothing wrong, why has he got all these lawsuits? I don't get it. I don't get it. Thank you for the honoring in the chat. It's greatly appreciated. It's been a really hectic day today. There's been quite a bit going on with all of the trials that I've been following. We had active testimony in the Masterson trial today that I'm trying to keep track of. We had a ton of testimony yesterday and today in the Vallow trial that I'm keeping track of. And we also got a media order today that says that the verdict for the Vallow case will be camera viewed through the YouTube channel of the Idaho government site for the judicial services. They have their own YouTube channel, and we will all be able to watch it. So once we know what's going on with that, I'll have more news, but we may be able to chat about it live. We'll see what the timing is on that and see if it's available to us. We'll try to do that for you. But the other thing is, we got the Starch verdict. She got 2 life sentences. She got another 12 years for each of the other 2 accounts, 3 and 4, for the mishandling of the body and also for obstruction for tampering with evidence. He hit her with the maximum for all of the accounts. Judge, he did what he could. But I'll be giving you that video. I actually recorded that for you, the actual verdict and also the sentencing. And we'll be putting that together and put it in the playlist for you, because that trial got to be really hard to cover. Just how disrespectful she and her defense attorneys were about the whole process. I just couldn't take anymore. It was just too much for me. The other thing is, on the Manson case that we are following, there was some rulings on the anti-SLAPP, some good news, some bad news, but it's still moving forward. The case is not dismissed. It's not trashed as everybody's reporting. It's a big loss. It's not. It's still ongoing, because the defamation part of the case is still on. It's just the one part of the anti-SLAPP, which had to do with the FBI letter, has been held back as protected because it was part of another court case, and they're not going to let them use it. But that doesn't mean it's over. I mean, that's a big piece of evidence there. I get it. It was a little bit, but we're going to talk about that on another video. Today, we're going to focus here on E. Jean Carroll, okay? Because, as I said before, I had a lot of admiration for her in her testimony. She came through strong and she proved her case. Now, let me just remind everybody, this was a civil lawsuit, okay? For those of you reading tweets out there that he is now a convicted whatever, that's not true. He has been ordered civil. He's got civil liability. He has to pay damages. But this was not a criminal case. There was no charge of assault on him criminally. So I just want to make that clear, because I've seen a lot of misinformation out there, and you know me, that stuff just ruffles my feathers. Like, this is still a great win. She is vindicated. The jury believes her story, that the way she's been telling it from the start, that it's true, and that the way he treated her about it was wrong, that there was defamation. He went against her character. He called her a liar, and they're saying, well, she can't be a liar if it's true. So, boom, you're guilty. Now, in his deposition, which was videotaped and released publicly, by the way, I got to do a couple of things here before I get a reminder from my lovely mods. There you go. Look at me, guys, on the ball. Here we go. But also, I have for you this lovely video here is the actual, for your viewing pleasure. Let's first talk about his deposition, which was on tape. Now, I think one of the reasons that the defense was not too upset about having him come to trial and defend himself, if you watch the deposition and you see how he talked and what he said, he didn't do them any favors. And this full deposition got played in court as evidence. They talk about the Billy Bush tape. That was actually played in court. And when asked about it in his deposition, which for those of you keeping track will be at about the 46 mark as far as what appears on the screen, not of the video. When you get to actually the 46 mark in the 46 mark of the actual deposition, this is all been trimmed down just a little bit. It says it's from Fox News, I believe, that video, and they have a lot of it there. But when you get to about 46 minutes, they start talking about that tape, and he starts talking about how this is just how celebrities are. Like, he would say so. Like, that's just how it is. They get to do stuff like that, because like they're celebrities. They got money, they got clout, and they're allowed to act this way. And then he was asked, do you consider yourself a famous person with clout and all of that? And he's like, well, yeah, some could say that. I consider that. Like, he was so entitled and smug. And here's the really, when you watch that video, you're going to find one part where he actually goes hard on Carroll. He calls her a nut job and a liar. And he says, like, she's crazy. He actually defames her during his own deposition to defend himself against defaming her. It's the wildest stuff I've ever seen in my life. He literally just did it again. Like, just did it again in front of his own lawyers. Okay? Alana Haba, I can't even imagine her face. I can't even imagine her face when he did it. But there it was in front of everybody. Court reporter, live deposition, being filmed. All the attorneys there. Can't take it back. Can't get it stricken. The other thing they can't get stricken is the fact that during this deposition, and oh boy, let me just okay. During this deposition, he was asked if he knew Jean Carroll, and he says he doesn't. He's been saying that all along, that he does not know who she is. Okay. So he was actually, and I'm gonna bring this up because this is rich, people. He was actually given a picture, this picture, which he said was too blurry to see. Can you all see this? I didn't retouch it. I didn't do anything to it. Somebody put the names on it very nicely for us from an article, but I didn't retouch it. Does that look very blurry to you? No, he said it was too blurry really to read because he was trying to defend himself about what he did just 2 minutes before, which was to ask if he knew Jean Carroll. And then, of course, prosecution shows him this picture in the questions, and he says, who is in this picture? And he identifies John Johnson. He says that's his wife, Ivana Trump. He says that's himself, and he says that's his ex-wife, Marla Maples. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't Marla Maples. That is a picture of E. Jean Carroll, who he never met, who he's right there talking to, who has said over and over and over again is not his type, way too ugly to exist. He literally said that she shouldn't even exist, that she was so ugly. And yet there he is identifying her as the woman he left his first wife for, that he was madly in love with, left his family for, married, had a child, who was beautiful, who says she was beautiful. She looks very much like her, but that's not his type. Anyway, it didn't go very well. That deposition was crazy. I mean, one of the worst representations on how to defend yourself. It's almost like, let's just get this over with. I did it. Here's your deposition. Almost every question, he really just put his foot in his mouth. He made it very difficult for his attorneys. You know, I at first did not like Taco Pina's approach when he was going in his cross-examination of E. Jean Carroll. And I'm still going to say that I think he went too far. But he's a desperate man. I get it now. When I saw that deposition, I'm like, I wouldn't trade places for him with all the tea in China. That had to be the worst job in the world. I now think that they should go up for sainthood, Trump lawyers. They're either just like it's a mountain too high to climb. There's like no way. The man isn't working with you. He's totally working against you the whole time. Just being him. He thinks he knows better. Donald Trump thinks he knows better than anybody, and he's actually sinking his own ship here. Oh, that deposition was lit. It was crazy. The stuff that he said that is now part of a record, part of the case. The jury saw all of it. It was unbelievable. Just unbelievable. You have to actually see it. Oh, she does look like Mary. She does look, and Jerry, you're right. She looks a little bit like Morgan Fairchild also, But point being, he identified the woman he says he does not know, isn't her type, and would never go near as his ex-wife. Okay. Publicly. It's crazy. I missed Nick also. I missed Nick's also, and Jer. I was watching something else, but I also just caught the end of Starsky too. Okay. No, I hope you don't get too confused, but I'll tell you, if you watch the deposition, it's almost as funny. Although I will say, Rocket Couch, that Mallory and I had a really good time doing that, and I hope we get to do it again soon. But I'm gonna get back on topic here because I don't want to take too much of everyone's time today. I want to kind of wrap this case up with a nice bow, with a win for E. Jean Carroll and a win for victims everywhere. Because here is a woman with no physical evidence, just her collaborating testimony of others and herself. Okay, and the words of Donald J. Trump himself, she won her case. They laid it out. She had a fantastic team. Roberta Kaplan and her team actually knocked it out of the park. That is one hell of a law firm over there. She did a great job. Closing arguments were 2 hours each. Okay. And Roberta Kaplan came out swinging. She just told the jury straight out, this man's not even here to defend himself. He can't look you in the eye. He can't come here and tell you he didn't do it. He didn't even bother to give you the respect of showing up to his own trial. Yeah, they laid it on thick. They talked about everything E. Jean Carroll had lost. That it's not just the violation that happened on that very day, but the continuation of the demeaning, degrading, and unnecessary diatribe that came from this man. The threatening of harassing, the trying to ruin her career over and over again. How it affected her social life, how it affected her personal, intimate life so drastically that she wasn't having a companionship that way. She suffered, and she got to tell her story, and she got to tell it strong, and the court believed her. And I know a lot of people are upset about how that happened because of the way that the window opened up in New York with the Adult Survivors Act, where for a year, anyone with a past statute of limitations complaint against an attacker can file suit, can look for legal justice, can look for it. And I think that that's a good thing. There were so many people that were left out in the cold, not able to file because of abuses that happened, especially in the New York area, in regards to the church, in regards to, of course, one of the other big sections was that there were quite a few Jehovah Witness complaints coming out. There were all people that were past the statute of limitations. So there was a large amount of people that were unable to use the system to actually get closure, to get justice, to at least try to get justice. Not everyone is successful. But if the reason was because of statute of limitations, because they were younger when it happened, unsure, in therapy, traumatized, you name it. This window opens for a year, and it's not even specific as to how you can actually use it that way. You don't have to jump through hoops like you do for extenuating circumstances and other things that you can use in the legal system in some states, not all states, to try to extend the statute of limitations, And it's been difficult. And I'm glad that E. Jean Carroll was able to address this. Now, there's a lot of talk out there that everything was political. I would say that E. Jean Carroll is not a fan of Trump. I would say since 1996, she doesn't really need to be after what happened to her. But that doesn't mean it's political. Can it not just be about the incident? Okay, when she filed her suit in 2017, 2019, after the article came out, where she was allowed to talk about something that personally happened to her. Because if it's true, you're allowed to say it. That's the fact. Because look at what he does. Like, he doesn't speak the truth and he's allowed to say it. Why isn't she allowed to say it if it's the truth? Well, he came at her hard because he was going to be running for presidency. Okay. And he came at her really hard and he made her part of the campaign. Disparaged her continually. There's still another lawsuit in regards to this on the books, waiting, because it is thrown back to Manhattan Supreme Court by Washington, D.C., because they didn't want to weigh in as far as what the employer's intent was, as far as, the United States government, we the people, whether or not Donald J. Trump was representing us when he stood on a podium and defamed her vilely. Like, we don't really know. Like, you're not supposed to go and sue them if they're acting on the best part of their employer, meaning the government. You can't sue them. However, was that really personal, or was that acting, in presidential duties? Washington, D.C. Superior Court decided they didn't know either way. They didn't have enough information to make that determination. But there was enough there to throw it back to Manhattan to decide for themselves. And so that's where it is now, held up. But this is lawsuit number 2 for all of the claims he made after he was president. Because here's the thing. It got held up the first time and it was in Superior Court. So, he felt, I'll just keep doing it. I'll just keep talking. Didn't do himself any favors because he got himself another lawsuit, a second lawsuit, for all the things he said then. And on this lawsuit, in November of 2022, that window opened up in New York, and she decided to add the actual incident that caused her to speak out in the first place, that caused him to actually come against her because she did speak out about it. It's her story. She's got a right to tell. But he didn't like it. But lawsuit happened, and here we are. Closing arguments by Roberta Kaplan were brilliant. She laid out the whole thing. She went through how E. Jean Carroll, what she lost, how she lost it, what she has suffered, talked about the incident, talked about victims in general, and then repeatedly reminded the jury that there was no defense. They had not submitted any evidence. All they want you to believe is that she's lying and that it's political. But why would a woman put herself through that just so a man doesn't run again for office? He's already been president. He's already politically connected. He's already a very powerful man. Do you really think that that was her goal, to go there and just make sure that didn't happen? She would suffer this humility. She would have to go through the cross-examination of Tacopina, asking her if she screamed, how loud, what did you do? Like, she practically asked her if she enjoyed it, what she did to deserve it. Total victim blaming, because that's all they had. They had to make her out to be a liar. They had to make her out to be politically connected so that it wouldn't be true. But the fact is, it happened, and the jury believed it. Okay. Now, Taco Pino came back and he just said that she was in it for the money in his closing argument. He said that, this was a political hoax, that like all the other witch hunts that Trump claims are happening against him, because, he doesn't do anything. No one should be upset with him. It's all just people just trying to tear him down because he's so wonderful. Okay. Got nothing to do with anything. Let me remind you that his organizations have been actually fined, penalized, disbanded, ruled against, and there are many, many cases that he's lost in regards to him not doing anything wrong. I would sit here and be justified to say that's not true, because you have been found guilty in numerous cases for fraud, for misrepresenting charitable funds, for running charitable organizations that weren't charitable organizations. You've actually been told you can't actually run a charitable organization, you or your family, because of that. And just recently, Trump Organization itself, with their bookkeeper, their accountant, slam dunk, guilty on all charges. And you're now indicted for another 34 charges on this is a criminal indictment that says that you actually misappropriated, mislabeled business, funds during a campaign. But that's another thing. All right. I'm just here to say the man, he's really got no room to talk. If he really wanted to say all this, he's saying it on Truth Social, but he wouldn't come to court to say it. Okay. And what does that tell you? What does that actually tell you? Where is the respect? I say there is none. He's acting entitled. Okay. And I think that it did not play well with the jury. I couldn't really tell you what they think. I can't put myself in their shoes. I know what I would think if I heard that deposition and I heard the way he talked. I would be like, what the heck? And then to listen to the testimony of her friends, her family, her associates, of what she went through, and her honesty and candor in regards to statements she made. She's a pretty catty person about things sometimes. So how she takes things, she's got a pretty snarky sense of humor. She said some pretty weird things that they tried to use against her. That could be explained. Oh, she laughed things off. At one point in the cross-examination, and also repeated in the closing arguments, Taco Pino went after her because she used the word fabulous in regards to her life, like several years later. Like, you're not allowed to actually be okay after an event like that happened. But I ask you, does that mean it didn't happen? You get better, you brush it off, you walk on, you continue with your life. It didn't like destroy you to the max. It doesn't mean you don't have problems. But because she used the word fabulous, you got to act like it didn't exist. That means it didn't happen. Oh, please spare me. Um, Everything that's wrong with our system was in that cross examination. And it just proved to me they had nothing. If that's how where they had to go. I mean, what was the defense? Yeah. What was the defense? You deserved it or you lied. But really, that's the only two places they went. But unfortunately, that is not very rare. It's not rare at all in our legal system today. Every day there are cases and that's happening. Every single day, the victims. Every damn day. If you're brave enough to come forward, that's what you have to be prepared for. Because that is how it's going to be. I haven't seen it any other way. I have not. Not in the ones that I've been looking at. It doesn't seem to be the way. It's a shame, too. It really is. Hey. Hey, Beck. Good to see you. Hey, Record. Thanks for the orders. Oh, and all those minions. And thanks for feeding them, too. Hope you're having a good day, boo. All of you, I hope you're having a good day. I know Jean Carroll is. I know she is. Because the jury did come back. The jury did come back. After closing arguments, I have to tell you, that was fast. This morning, the judge had to go over some things, gave the jury instructions, turned the case over. You know, what really burns my butt in regards to what Trump is saying right now is that Judge Kaplan, even after being told last week that Donald J. Trump would not be testifying and the defense was not going to present the case, because of a tweet that he made actually an interview that he gave in Scotland on the golf course. Okay, you may have seen, hold on, not this picture, but let me just pull this up. Where is he? This picture where he gives this interview and he actually says that he's getting on a plane and he's coming into New York because some liar is making a case against him and he has to come defend himself, and he's going to come to the court and plead his case and straighten this whole thing out. Like, he's going to do it. He's on his way. So Judge Kaplan was informed of this and he decided, well, then if he wants to, it's his right. And I don't want to interfere with his rights at all. And if he's changed his mind, then sure, we'll give him till Sunday midnight to file that he wants to testify on Monday. And they didn't give the case to the jury on Friday. They waited. They waited, even though closing arguments were done. But he opened his mouth and the judge actually gave him the courtesy, which he didn't have to do, by the way, because the defense rested and so did the state. Closing arguments were over. Okay. They're all ready to go on Monday to put this all. Actually, closing arguments happened Monday. I'm sorry. On Friday, he said that he wanted to come. So they were going to let him come Monday before the closing arguments. They had to file by midnight on Sunday. Let me just make that clear. I don't want it to be confused between Friday and Monday. Well, had all weekend for the attorneys and Trump to get together to file something emergency through that. Yes, he's coming. Boom. It takes 2 seconds. The judge practically said it can happen. Okay. All you have to do is let us know. Nobody. They let that time frame go by. So closing arguments happened. Trump never shows up, but he's out there tweeting that he's been denied. He's been denied the ability to stick up for himself. And I just don't understand where he gets the balls to say that, because that didn't happen. The judge actually went out of his way to make sure that he had a vehicle to come in, even though he said repeatedly he wasn't, through his attorneys. Okay. Well, he's still out there. This is a sham. This is a sham. He doesn't want to actually operate within the confines of the legal system like every other person has to here in America. But of course, he doesn't. There should be special rules for him, do it on his time frame, whatever. Well, yeah, you're right, Colin. He's too busy playing golf. But he left. He emergency left. He made it like a whole big deal. I guess maybe he thought the judge wasn't going to see that. I don't know. Yes, the lawyer's name is Taco Pino. It is. Yep. It's Taco Pino. That's the defense attorney. And Ali Haba, is the second chair who did nothing during the trial, but she did do the deposition with him. And maybe that's why she didn't do anything in the trial. She was just like, after that deposition, she was just like stunned into, what do we do now? Like, why bother? Really? You know? We could. But we also want to talk. Okay, so now we know where he's coming from. If you've been following anything, you actually know that the verdict did come through. And I'd like to talk about that with you guys, a little bit, because um let me just pull this part up now. I actually have the verdict form here for you. Okay. Uh there are several sites that have it. The link that I have for it is quite long right now, so I'm not going to be able to actually stream it for you. Like I could stream it, but I'm not actually going to be able to give you the link because it's so damn long. It's just not going to fit. Okay, but the jury came back. All in all, we're going to be looking at exactly what they voted on and how much they gave her for what. And there's some changes here, and that I want to explain, because he was not actually found liable for the rape. They reduced it to sexual battery, and I'll tell you why. Because the law says that the actual word rape is actual penetration without consent. And during her testimony, uh, Eugene Carroll, when asked if she saw it, meaning it, she said she didn't see it, but that she assumed by the way it felt that that's what happened. But she didn't see any of that, and she couldn't confirm that that actually hinted. Now, I know here come the jokes. Like, does that mean it's that small? All of that, besides that, this is actually the legal definition of it. And I will give the jury credit that because of that statement, if there was any doubt as far as that part happening, what they did do is just lower it to sexual battery, which is just as bad. That means things happened to her against her will sexually. All of the other stuff that she talked about, the aggression, all of that is still there. It's just that legal term that is not defined, and they could not find enough to actually support it. But they still said he was guilty of it. He's civilly liable. He's got civil liability for what he did to her. Now, again, not a criminal charge, but he could be called an abuser. He's got civil liability here. He could wear that monogram. Okay. So in this case, and we're going to go, it says, did Miss Carroll prove by preponderance of the evidence that she was raped? They said no. Mr. Trump sexually abused her? Yes. Mr. Trump forcibly touched her? They didn't answer. Okay. Because it says if you answered yes, go to 4. Because if you go to this one, see, if you answered yes here, you would skip these. Okay. Well, here they're saying, because they are saying that she was abused, and they go down to, Miss Carroll was injured as a result of this conduct? Yes. If yes, enter a dollar amount. For the abuse, she receives $2 million from the jury. Question 5. Mr. Trump's conduct was willfully or wantonly negligent, reckless, or done with a conscious disregard of the rights of Miss Carroll, or was so reckless as to amount to each disregard? Yes. If yes, how much, if any, should Mr. Trump pay Miss Carroll in punitive damages? $20,000. Did Miss Carroll prove by a preponderance of evidence that Mr. Trump's statement was defamatory, because now we're out of the abuse part, we're going to defamation. Yes. Was if you say yes, you have to do the three-part check. Remember that from other trials that we've covered? So here we go. Was Mr. Trump's statement false? Yes. Mr. Trump made the statement with actual malice? Yes. Ms. Carroll was injured as a result of Mr. Trump's publications of the October 12th, 2022 statement. Yes. If yes, insert a dollar amount for any damages other than the reputation repair program. $1 million. If yes, insert a dollar amount for any damages for the reputation repair program only. $1.7 million. In making the statement, Mr. Trump acted maliciously out of hatred, ill will, spite, wanton, reckless, or willful disregards of the rights of another? Yes. If yes, how much, if any, would Mr. Trump pay to Ms. Carroll in punitive damages? $280,000 for a grand total of $5 million. There you have it, the jury. I think that that was an absolute fair judgment. I don't know about you guys, but I'm thinking that's a total win. Okay? I know. Talk about privilege. Exactly, Anna. How unnerving to even watch that deposition. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. I like the way you guys are doing with the last names, but steering, yeah. I know. Hey, Shill and Sean. It's so good to see you. Thanks for coming over and helping out. How do they pick the dollar amount? Do they have a chart or something? They are given a range based on statute and all. Punitive damages are up to them. Actually, I did read somewhere that they did get an actuary to during the trial, during testimony, E. Jean Carroll's lawyers had presented someone to sit there and say what she lost business wise, as far as actually money, as far as bookings and reputation and jobs she could have held and things she could have done. And it was somewhere between $398,000 and $2 million. So they had a wide range to go from. And I do believe that they are looking at that testimony and the guidelines that are issued. Why each state would have their own answer as far as limitations. In the Johnny Depp trial, I do remember for punitive, they tried to give millions of dollars to Johnny Depp for one part that had a $350,000 cap on it. And so it got reduced down to that right away. And I think that each state does have their limits here and there for the defamation in regard to ranges that they can go in. When it talks to the actual monetary part in the beginning of it, to regards what she would have lost in reputation, that reputation repair program, that's the part they're talking business wise that she lost, like money. They could actually calculate that out based on what was given as testimony during the trial that she lost out on. And I think that's where they come with that $1.7 million. The rest of it is based, like you said, charts and calculations, Yep. Many states have a cap. That's right, Anna, Mm-hmm. I agree. We voting okay. Rocket Couch is in AITA mode. He's voting number 2. It's the opposing party is the a-hole. I get it. The entitlement alone would qualify for that. I don't even think I need to tell you the rest of the story. But on this, we've got the verdict. We've got the jury actually coming in, and I just wanted to talk to you guys about it because this is actually I'm happy about this one. Not happy that the case happened. Not happy for anything that she went through, but happy that she got to tell her story, that she was strong through it, and that she can actually walk out of that court with her head held high. E. Jean Carroll can walk out with her held very high to know that she told her story. She went through it. They believed her and they vindicated her. They vindicated her. They literally said he did everything with malice. They literally said that he was actually doing everything with malice. And that it was on purpose. He knew what he was doing. And it has to feel good. Terrible thing to have to go through to get this kind of justice for herself. But I can't imagine she's not pleased with the outcome if she's going to do it. Listen, in a civil case, the standard of proof is lower. We know that. It's a preponderance of evidence. In the concluding arguments, it would be said that, E. Jean Carroll's attorneys were very convincing, explaining why Carroll could be trustworthy about this, how it affected her, how during her testimony she proved that she's telling the truth. In her closing statement, I recall one statement that Kaplan had said. She said, and Kaplan being her attorney, E. Jean Carroll's Roberta Kaplan, she said, in order for you to think he's not guilty, you would have to concede that Donald Trump, the nonstop liar, is the only person here telling the truth. Because he said that everything everybody else did was a lie. He said all of the witnesses were lying. He said the judge was paid off. He had something to say about everybody. Everybody. He said it was all a hoax. It was all a one-man, takedown. They're just after him. Okay. He didn't want to look at it as if anything right and wrong, how any of it. He's defending himself. I get that. But that statement resonated with me because show me where he's telling the truth even now. He's spinning it, hoping no one actually finds the truth. There will be court documents that say that he was offered to come testify, but he's out there saying like they didn't want me to do it. They're it's it should be shocking, but to me right now it's not. I guess I'm getting a little jaded after dealing with it for years and years and years. The preponderance of evidence left the jury with a sound verdict. They were confident because I'll remind you that this 9-person jury, 6 men, 3 women, had to be unanimous. They all had to agree on every part of it or it couldn't go through. It was unanimous. There wasn't one that held out. And I'd also like to tell you, it only took them 3 hours to decide. 3 hours. They pretty well knew before closing arguments. They pretty well knew when he wouldn't show up. They pretty well knew during the deposition where he just, instead of saying anything decent, like, I'm sorry she feels something happened like that, but it wasn't me. Nope. He said, she should be dead. She's so ugly. I would never touch her. She's crazy. She's nut job. She's personally attacking me for some political reason. This is part of a hoax to keep me from being president. And during his deposition, he mentioned all the hoaxes, like all of them, that he believes exist. It sounded really like a QAnon conspiracy meeting, his deposition. It was really eye-opening. I think it is not going to go very well. But it'll be spun, as usual, but the former president has been held civilly liable for defamation and sexual abuse. Sexual battery. He's guilty of that in a civil case. Okay, again, I'll remind you that's not a criminal charge. Okay, and they did downgrade the one charge, but they still found him guilty of it. just to a lesser degree. There's no win here for him. No win at all. The only win he got by not taking the witness stand was making more of an ass of himself, in my humble opinion. Yes, it's just my opinion. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not speaking legally. I'm not a therapist. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm telling you, in my humble opinion, that's the only win here for him, is he didn't make a bigger ass of himself by taking that stand and doing what he did in the deposition, which definitely would be even worse. Okay. But $5 million is a nice win. Unfortunately, it's also my humble belief that she'll never see a penny of it, because he's already filing an appeal. I can guarantee it. I don't know if Taco Pino's going to file it. I don't know how they feel about still representing him after they put him in the bind of looking the way they did throughout this trial, by not supporting them, by keeping his mouth shut while they tried to defend him. But, I know how I would feel, but I'm no lawyer. Then again, I'm not making the big bucks trying to defend him either. I mean, maybe it's worth it to them. I don't know. But an appeal is surely on the way, and I'm sure this isn't the last that we'll be speaking about this particular case, because I am still going to track what happens to the other one that is stalled in Supreme Court. I mean, now that we know that the statements he made are guilty and that he has been convicted in a civil case of the sexual battery for the same incident, okay, that they're talking about in the other case, that kind of proves that the statements are lies. Might be easier to prove. Maybe there's more money coming. Maybe there's more. Or maybe it'll get dismissed as already done. Because although those were all statements while he was the president, which had even more harm because of the harassment that she put up with, didn't put up with, but that she got because he was president. And everyone who follows him, she was just like a target. He put a target on her and sent all his followers after her. You know how that goes. Can you imagine that? Being in that position. And that is what really, really made her file. That he did that. That reckless disregard for another person. He doesn't have to like her. He doesn't have to like what he said. But that doesn't give him the right to do the kind of harm that he does. And he does it to more than just this person. It's kind of like his stick, It's kind of like what he does. He decides he doesn't like you or something. You come against him and you are just out of everything he says for days, weeks, months. He turns everybody on you. He gets on that podium and he just starts. He gets those little Twitter buttons going, but now it's social. Now it's true social. It's not Twitter, but he just starts with his, messaging, and he's getting his side of the story out there and drumming, pounding that drum until you all start dancing to his beat. I just hope more people will take pause and actually start looking at the facts. I challenge anyone to get a red pen and dissect those tweets, those messages that you get in True Social. Take it apart sentence by sentence and actually find out if you can find any truth in it. Tell me you don't see the spin going round and round. Aren't you dizzy yet? Don't you want to get off? Don't you want to get off? Really? But not many people will take that challenge. They just want to believe what they want to believe. Yep. That's what we're going to hear, Turtle Moose. Unfortunately, it's all fake news. Pretty soon they'll be like, there wasn't a trial. It was all made up and somebody made a video about it. And so it doesn't really exist. I could just see it now. Can't you? Like, seriously. Like, they goes that far. It's all just a conspiracy. They're just all out to get me. Oh, I couldn't fight back. I'm the most powerful man in the world, but they want me. I'd like to do a little shout out to this man here. This is Judge Kaplan. Okay, and Judge Kaplan really did try to give him all the grace in the world while he was being disrespected on a daily basis, not only by Trump's own attorneys, but by Trump himself on social media, in filings. They called him biased. They called him paid off, crooked. Yeah, everything. Tried to damage his reputation, his long career, okay, as a judge. If I got a case, if I was a judge and I got a case and Trump was the defendant, I would know I was in for a wild ride. I would know I would become a target because that just seems to be what he does with everything. Well, it is unfortunate. And I kind of got to give him a lot of credit for going all the way through, and he did the best he could. Gave them more than enough chances to have Trump say his piece, to provide evidence, to put on a defense, a real defense, come in there and speak for himself, or even just show up, because that is his right as the accused. But if you don't show up, your court still goes on without you, because the other side does get to present a case, and this verdict is valid. This judgment is done. And this payday for Jean Carroll exists now. Whether or not he actually does it, I doubt. I doubt she'll ever see a penny, but I don't think it was the money for her. As a matter of fact, I would bet everything I had that it wasn't. Because if you sue someone like Donald Trump, you know you're never going to get paid. Just look to all the unpaid bills he's got in New York, New Jersey, everywhere else. Talk to Scotland. Talk to a lot of places, Talk to Florida, okay? Here in New Jersey, in New York, there are more cases trying to sue him for money he refuses to pay. Deals that he made. She's never going to see a penny because he doesn't believe that he owes it. He didn't believe he needed to defend himself. He had no respect for even the legal system or the court system to actually do the process. Yeah. He didn't think that Jean Carroll deserved due process. And he sure wasn't going to follow it. Exactly, Anna. Exactly. Let me find that one. I put that up. There is more to justice than money. Exactly. But the only way she could do this was a civil lawsuit. Well, she got her justice. I do. Yep. Can you imagine? I was thinking that. What a great meme, right? Because, I'm thinking when this actual verdict came through, that there must have been ketchup flying everywhere. Like everywhere. Like totally. Can you just imagine the fit, the meltdown? It did give me a giggle, and I'm sorry to just make so much humor about it, but I can't help it because, he just makes it that way. Now he and Heard have to compete for courtroom fail pity. This is true. And he didn't have to step on a bee to get it, and he didn't cry in court. It's a shame. But that deposition, listen, Rocket Couch, if you want to actually end your night on a really humorous, unbelievable note, after this stream, that video, and I'm going to drop it again for anybody who didn't catch it, this one of the deposition highlights here, you definitely just gotta watch this video. It's about 40 some odd minutes of it. It's cut down, but the highlights are there, and you're not going to believe it. You will believe it actually, but it's just hysterical. Quite a lot of humor in there. I found it absolutely ridiculous. It just jaw dropping, jaw dropping in the audacity of it. To tell you the truth. All right, I'm going to look through my lovely comments here for everybody. Yep, there he goes. Yep, he once again said he didn't know her shortly after the guilty verdict. And that's something else I wanted to bring up before I finish here, because I actually grabbed a couple of those tweets that he made. Okay, so this is the one that I was speaking on in regards to I'm going to have to do it this way. Let's see. Nope, you can't see the whole thing. Okay, so this is from Adam. He's a journalist covering this. He's over on Law and Crime, I believe. But he says one cannot imagine that Judge Kaplan or Trump's attorney, Joe Tacopino, would be happy about this. Currently on True Social, just before the jury gets the case, which would be the Monday today. Okay. I mean, actually, Tuesday morning. Today's Tuesday. Sorry, guys. I'm like a little whoop because yesterday was Monday and I streamed, and I'm usually don't. And I'm a little like off on the days here. But this morning, this came out from Donald Trump. And for those of you that can't actually see it clearly, I'm going to read it out loud. He says, waiting for a jury decision on a false accusation where I, despite being a current political candidate and leading all others in both parties, am not allowed to speak or defend myself. He literally said, am not allowed to speak or defend myself, even as hard-nosed reporters scream questions about this case at me. In the meantime, the other side has a book falsely accusing me of rape and is working with the press. I will therefore not speak until after the trial, but will appeal the unconstitutional silencing of me as a candidate, no matter the outcome. Yada, yada, yada. So that was before. And like I said, the judge just decided, well, you know what we're dealing with here. What are we going to do? We're giving the case to the jury. He doesn't want to come in. He could have come on and speak. He may be here referring to, I'll give him a little bit of grace. He may be referring to the fact that he was actually admonished. His attorneys, himself, his family were admonished for speaking about the case out there in public. Okay. Now, when he's talking about the reporters and everything, they're talking about the case. Okay. They're talking about what's happening in the trial back and forth and the documentation. They're not slandering or doing like all this other stuff. He got admonished for actually talking about something that happened in private chambers that a hearing was held on that was told by all parties not to discuss in public, and they ran with it out in public. And that's what he was admonished for. And if that's what he's talking about there, well, boo-boo, why don't you tell them the facts? It was a gag order about one specific thing, but you couldn't keep your mouth shut. Nobody's saying you can't talk. I defend yourself. Like, sorry, boo-boo. Like, talk about the facts here. Like, this is just crying. I don't feel bad for his hurt peepees here at all, because those that actually would research what happened in the court would find out. If you actually even read a couple of the articles from any source you want, okay, they should be telling you the facts of what actually happened in the court. And what he was speaking on that he got admonished about was a gag order in specific to something that happened and discussed in judges' chambers. They were all told not to talk about it, and they went out and ran with it and got admonished for it, the attorneys and his family. Okay, so this is the second part. This is actual after the verdict comes out. So someone had posted this, and I took their name off because he does use this word here, and I don't want them to, get any flack. But they actually say, I have absolutely no idea who this woman is. This verdict is a disgrace, a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time. Now, apparently the witch hunt of all time, the people who perpetrated have changed since he actually started running for any type of office anywhere, because he's always said that there's a witch hunt against him. Like, there's a witch hunt. Like, it just changes. Now it is Carroll who's running this witch hunt against him, and she's colluding with everybody who just wants to, get rid of him. I don't know. I just think it's ridiculous. He's his own worst enemy at this point. He's not doing himself any favors. It's just absolutely twisting the truth, Anna. Absolutely, Nothing will beat the poops bigger than the pooches. Nope. Nothing will, as far as that actual trial. That is a reference to the Amber Heard trial and the evidence of the poop on the bed at Johnny Depp's birthday party. Yeah. Okay. And it says, I want to see what happens with the CNN town hall tomorrow. CNN is the moderator. There's a CNN commentator who's the moderator of that. I don't think it's going to get canceled. I think it's going to turn into quite the clip show, if you know what I mean. I think things are going to get said that should be clipped and saved for prosperity and for guffaws and ridiculousness, because I would imagine he's battered in a bee's hornet right now. I would, yeah, I would imagine he's livid. I would imagine he's throwing fits everywhere. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near him or work for him at this moment because, like, can you imagine what he's like right now in his vicinity? Now the op is legally confirmed in AHAL. You're right. The original poster of those tweets is a confirmed AHAL. Thank you for that, Rocket Couch. I would agree with that. I would agree. I definitely would agree with that. Okay. So, well, that's my hour, everybody. If there are no more questions, I think I'm going to tie it up. I think that this was a win, a definite win for E. Jean Carroll and for victims everywhere, because the preponderance of evidence, which did not include any physical evidence of assault, only the testimonies of the people she talked to right away that got the calls, that the support of the statements of the accuser himself are what did him in. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. He did himself no favors here. If he's going to blame anyone, he should be blaming his own tongue at this point. Yup. Yes, he should. He shouldn't have done the incident to begin with. But to do what he's done since made it absolutely positively possible for this verdict to be genuine, justifiable, and done. Done deal. Done deal. I would say at this point, Donald J. Trump was fired. He was fired. If we were on that show that he used to do, he'd be fired right now for talking out of turn. Anyway, that's not what the case was about. Well, it was the case, what the case was about originally. And then it turned into something else because he was actually talking out of turn about something that was a true fact of E. Jean Carroll's life, who she was entitled to speak on. And he just went too far, too far on it. Okay. All right. Yep. He just twisted it and twisted it, twisted that truth, Anna. I agree with you. On that, I hope you all have a good night. Don't forget, if you like some of the stuff we're doing over here, please like, share, comment, share it with someone, get some more subscribers over here, more people for y'all to talk to in the charts. I'll be back again during the end of the week. We are going to look into the Vallow verdict and see if that's going to be streaming. I do believe both the defense and the state have rested, and we should be going to jury. So we'll see. We'll have closing statements, go to jury, all that stuff. But the verdict itself will be streamed, and we'll see if we can take care of that for you. Either way, we're going to be giving you an update on it anyway. Okay. We also have the Masterson State case still going on, and quite a few other ones. But this one for now is closed, just like Stoss. We're going to close it. We're going to put it over. We'll keep our eye on it to see about the appeal. But there's plenty more to do in regards to other legal cases that are out there. So towards the end of the week, don't forget, we're going to have our What the Effery on Saturday. We'll be doing panels over there for Operator Starsky and on Called For at the Shills. And also Sunday afternoon, I'm thinking, well, we may just have a political review for you because there is so much going on. And myself and my friend Quiz, we had a little bit to say about it, so we're going to be checking it out. So we hope we'll see you then. Check the back of my channel for updates on what's coming up, and I will see you all soon.